In a land where history appears like an ancient scroll, Israel, the world's only Jewish state, sits to the east of the Mediterranean Sea. Across its borders lies Palestine, home to the Arab population with roots in the lands now controlled by Israel. These two lands have been together in a complex dance of conflict, especially in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, where tension has risen and sometimes boiled over into violent clashes. The story of Israel and Palestine is not a recent one. It traces back to thousands of years. To truly grasp the heart of their ongoing struggle, we must go on a journey through time, exploring the roots that have shaped the intense Israel-Palestine saga. In ancient times, around the 17th century BC, an incredible story unfolded in the land we now know as Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, along with parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. God's call led three key figures, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to settle in this region, which later earned names like the Land of Israel, the Promised Land, Palestine, or the Holy Land. Fast forward to 1000 BC. King Saul established the Israelite monarchy. Under King David, Jerusalem became the capital, and his son, King Solomon, built the first temple there. However, after King Solomon's era, the united monarchy split into the Kingdom of Israel in the north and the Kingdom of Judah in the south. Despite being home to a majority of Jews, the land faced numerous conquests, leading to a decline in the Jewish population. The Romans put an end to the Jewish connection and named the region Palestine during their conquest. As time passed, Christianity emerged, initially as a Jewish sect, but eventually becoming a dominant religion. In the 7th century, Arab conquests began, spreading Islam and making Jerusalem a holy city for three major monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Dome of the Rock rose in place of the Second Temple. In the face of intense persecution by the Seljuk Turks, European Christians launched crusades to reclaim Jerusalem. Simultaneously, a movement called Zionism gained momentum in Europe, envisioning a Jewish national state in their ancient homeland. This dream brought tens of thousands of Jews back to the region in the early 20th century. In the early 1900s, when Israel and Palestine were under British rule, World War I erupted, leading to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. The British and French empires then divided up the Middle East's land. In 1917, Britain's Foreign Secretary, Arthur Balfour, sent a letter addressed to Lionel Walter Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community. The letter committed the British government to establish a Jewish state in Palestine, which comprised of 90% of Arab natives at that time. This letter is known as the Balfour Declaration. A British mandate was created in 1923 and lasted until 1948. During that period, the British facilitated mass Jewish immigration. Most of the new residents were fleeing from Hitler's Nazism in Europe. British handed over the control of the confiscated Palestine to the new Jewish settlers. Palestinians were shocked by the changing demographics of their land. Rising tensions eventually led to the Arab Revolt. In the first phase of the revolt in 1936, the newly formed Arab National Committee called on Palestinians to launch a general strike, withhold taxes and boycott Jewish products to protest British colonialism and increasing Jewish immigration. The strike was viciously repressed by the British, who launched a mass arrest campaign and carried out punitive home demolitions, a practice that Israel continues to implement against Palestinians today. In 1937, the second phase of the revolt began, and was led by the Palestinian Peasant Resistance Movement. It targeted British forces and colonialism. By 1939, Britain had transferred 30,000 troops in Palestine. Curfews were imposed, villages were bombed by fighter jets, homes destroyed, and administrative detentions and summary killings were widespread. Further, the British collaborated with the Jewish settler community and formed armed groups called the Special Night Squads. Arms were secretly imported in Yishuv, the pre-state settler community, and weapons factories were established to expand the Haganah, the Jewish paramilitary that later became the core of the Israeli army. By 1947, the Jewish population had increased to 33%, but they owned only 6% of the land. In 1947, the United Nations came up with a plan to divide Palestine into Arab and Jewish states, which led to the birth of Israel in 1948. The Palestinians rejected the plan because it allotted about 55% of Palestine to the Jewish state, including most of the fertile coastal region. This led to the First Arab-Israeli War from 1947 to 1949. More than 500 Palestinian villages, towns, and cities were destroyed. This event is known as Nakba or Catastrophe in Arabic. An estimated 15,000 Palestinians were massacred. The Zionists captured almost 80% of historic Palestine. An estimated 750,000 Palestinians were forced out of their homes. The war ended in 1949 with Israel winning, but many Palestinians were forced to leave their homes, and the land got split into Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. At least 150,000 Palestinians remained in the newly created state of Israel and lived under a tightly controlled military occupation for almost 20 years before they were eventually granted Israeli citizenship. Egypt took over the Gaza Strip, and in 1950, Jordan began its administrative rule over the West Bank. In 1964, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, was formed, and a year later, the Fatah political party was established. In 1967, the stage was set for a 6-day war that would reshape the map and destinies of nations. After a series of tense diplomatic standoffs between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, the powder keg finally exploded. In the aftermath of this brief but intense conflict, Israel emerged victorious, gaining control over strategic territories like the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and even Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Yet the story doesn't end with triumph. The aftermath of the war painted a complex picture. While some lands were eventually returned, like the Sinai Peninsula, under the Egypt-Israeli peace treaty, a cloud of displacement loomed for Palestinian refugees and their descendants. Their return to homes became a distant dream as they found themselves scattered in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Settlement construction began in the occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip. A two-tier system was created, with Jewish settlers afforded all the rights and privileges of being Israeli citizens, whereas Palestinians had to live under a military occupation that discriminated against them and barred any form of political or civic expression. Then, in 1987, the spark of the First Intifada ignited at the Jabalia refugee camp. Triggered by a tragic collision involving Israeli Defense Forces and Palestinian civilian vans, claiming 4 lives. This marked a bloody period with hundreds of casualties, prompting a peace process. Enter the Oslo Accords, signed by Israel and the PLO. Oslo I in Washington, D.C., and Oslo II in Taba, Egypt, outlined the division of the West Bank into 3 areas. Area A under Palestinian control, Area B, shared by Palestinians and Israelis, and Area C, fully controlled by Israel. In the year 2000, during ongoing efforts for peace between Israelis and Palestinians, a stage was set for a dramatic turn of events. Ariel Sharon, a prominent Jewish Israeli figure who would later become Israel's prime minister, visited the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This action, seen as offensive by many Palestinians, sparked the eruption of the Second Intifada, a period of intense conflict. Disagreements persisted on critical issues, such as the status of Jerusalem, the rights of refugees, and the growing Jewish settlements in Palestinian territories. Despite the violence, peace talks continued. Ultimately, the clashes resulted in Israel's withdrawal from Gaza, but the settlement issues persisted in the West Bank. Hamas, a determined Sunni Islamist militant group, emerged with a goal to wipe Israel off the map and establish an Islamic State. The tensions escalated after the fierce battle between Hamas and Fatah, the PLO managers, leading to Hamas seizing control in Gaza. Israel responded with a suffocating blockade, sparking bloody wars like Operation Cast Lead, Pillar of Defense, and Protective Edge in 2014. Fast forward to 2018, a surprise twist occurs as Hamas and Fatah unite to form a national government. Meanwhile, the U.S. relocates its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, signaling strong support for the city of Israel's capital, a move that doesn't sit well with the Palestinians. In 2021, the conflict reignites with a series of events in East Jerusalem, triggering violence until a ceasefire orchestrated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United Nations takes effect on May 21st. And don't forget the ongoing situation sparked in 2023. The territorial dispute between Israel and Palestine is like a ticking time bomb, quietly waiting to explode at any moment. Israel has launched 4 protracted military assaults on Gaza in 2008, 2012, 2014, and 2021. Thousands of Palestinians have been killed, including many children, and tens of thousands of homes, schools, and office buildings have been destroyed. Rebuilding has been next to impossible because the siege prevents construction materials, such as steel and cement, from reaching Gaza. And with this, we reach the end of today's video. What do you think about today's video? Share your opinion. Do let us know in the comments section below. And if you liked today's video, give us a thumbs up, and do not forget to hit the subscribe. Share this video with your friends and family, and press the bell icon for more upcoming videos. We'll see you next time with a newer video. Stay tuned and take care.